Hello. So, I wanted to get a little bit personal. As usual, sorry for the poor quality of my shitty laptop's old camera, but it is what it is. And what I want to talk about is how Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis needs to change its content update policy to be successful. Granted, I don't work in the game industry. I've just been playing games for 40 plus years. I think I've got a firm grasp of what both sides need in terms of keeping players interested and engaging in the content, having it be fun and interesting for players on a more consistent basis, while also being profitable for the company. So here are some things that I would do to fix Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. I've already mentioned a bunch of the inconsistencies in the systems in the game and the scheduling, reset timers. You want to bang out all those inconsistencies, make everything more consistent across the board so players know what they're getting into, when they're getting into it, and that way they can adjust their gaming schedule accordingly with their daily schedule, so it doesn't hinder their ability to have a life and do other things, because it is very unhealthy to live on your phone constantly, which is why the stamina recharge issue is a major problem that most people probably don't understand the actual logistics behind that. But when you have new players coming in and seeing that they burn through all their stamina and it only takes 3 hours to recharge, while that's great, while you want to be actively engaging and playing that game really hard at the beginning, it takes way too long to get your stamina up to the point where you get a larger amount of hours. So when you do kind of start to feel the burnout and the grind gets to be a little bit too much, or you do, shift your focus into your real life, it creates this FOMO problem where you feel like you're constantly missing out on the stamina you should be spending, grinding. This is when people start to create those unhealthy habits where they are pulling out their phone at work or waking up in the middle of the night when they should be sleeping, because they're worried about spending every little bit of stamina and not missing out on, those event rewards, the experience gain, whatever it is. And when people start to develop those habits, most people will realize this is unhealthy and bad, and that's why they will quit games like this. And inconsistent schedules and constant FOMO or stressful situations like that definitely drive players away, and they don't want to drive players away. They want to keep them in there having fun. And that's why systems like auto retry, when, like I said, the novelty of looking at the characters and listening to this music only lasts so long, and then at a certain point it gets annoying when you're just constantly grinding the same fights over and over. And the grind in itself isn't bad, but having the grind being a feeling like a chore is bad. So having the ability to auto retry, or to have it background farm, they call it in more of the visions, I think. But yeah, a lot of games will have features like this where they have like a low battery auto retry farming type mode, to allow players to gain progress while they are doing schoolwork, while they're watching videos, while they're playing other games, or they're asleep, what have you. So having it feel like a chore constantly is, again, what makes the grind in this game bad. It's not the actual grind, because most games are in some way a grind to be able to progress, sorry, over time. But the inherent issue is it being a chore, having to sit there and manually hit retry every time, or to do certain manual functions on a repeat. It just gets really, really annoying over time. Um, Now, the content update schedule, they you can't just keep releasing costumes for and weapons for the same different costumes and weapons for the same character, same 7 to 10 characters over a cycle. This gets boring, especially when certain some people may only like a character so much as opposed to other characters. And if you're constantly focused on these same characters in the foreground repeatedly, again, players are going to get bored. It's going to be too little lack of variety, not enough to keep them wanting to actively engage and constantly farming and engaging in this grind because there's nothing really too new. Yeah, the events are, like I said, the events are kind of cute and interesting, but they're really novel again, and they wear off. What you really need to do is dive into regular story and character updates. You need to add a new character every month. Okay, I know that made some people might say, "Oh, that's too much." Some people might also say that's too little. I'm going to explain why they need to add a new character with some new storyline and new, like maybe a new dungeon environment every month. This is going to create a situation where players have something new to look forward to. This is definitely going to keep people interested. Having that new character coming, sure, they will eventually run out of characters, but the Final Fantasy VII universe is not short of characters for them to make at least one character a month, 2, maybe 3, even 4 years worth of consistent new characters every month. Sure, they might be able to. They might run out of. I don't think they. I don't think there's any shortage of storyline either for them to be able to add. Maybe environments, but that's not a big deal. They can repeat environments at a certain point, and that's not going to be too bad. They can also just create random, unique environments just as an aesthetic because that doesn't really matter. It's just going to be background. And sure, they might only have so much music to draw from as well, but there's a lot of like different arrangements of Final Fantasy type music that I don't really think there's a shortage of them being able to add music to. They don't necessarily have to stick to all Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy, just fun, engaging Final Fantasy music in general. Like with the Final Fantasy IX event, they can do some fun stuff like that, some little crossover, like Easter egg type stuff. It doesn't even have to be full crossovers. They could just throw some music in there, but not to trail off too much. Characters, one per month. Now, this is going to give players the ability to invest some time into that new character. A month will give them time to get their level up, to pull some weapons for them. And on the topic of weapons, in that month, that character should be on both of the banners that month. Two at least, or two of the banners. Maybe they'll have a third banner for whatever event's running at the time. And I think they should only really have one event banner going at a time personally. So, but in terms of the regular content, like new character update, they should have two banners that month. That it should last for 2 weeks each, where they should have a costume for that character on the first banner, and whatever weapon they want to do, because obviously you want to have two main weapons for a character. That's why I think 2 weeks, two new weapons for that character. That gives you a chance to focus draw to get two main weapons for that character. You get a costume for that character, and then maybe costumes for other characters mixed in to the in the random slot of each of those banners. that's when I think that it's nice, or it would be fine for them to have the same characters. Like Aerith having like 17 costumes now, it's I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it feels like that. It only feels that way because she's had so many of her own like solo banners, which is inexplicable. Whereas I feel like, Sephiroth comes out, for example, he was the only character we've gotten so far, and we did have some good banners for him lined up. I personally wasn't a huge fan of either of his costumes, although I did get the Final Fantasy IX one. Um, but that's just personal preference there. But yeah, I feel like every banner should have two costumes, and it should always focus more heavily on the new character at the time for that given month. And again, one character per month. That gives players an adequate time to build and focus and be interested in that character, while also looking forward to something new coming the next month. Because some players might finish that character in the first 2 weeks. Some people might not finish that character within that month time frame. But that's still going to keep, it's going to keep an active cycle of something that is incredibly interesting, to something that is really fun to look forward to every month. And again, there's no shortage of Final Fantasy VII characters for them to try to put into this game, to where that they can probably fill the next 3 or 4 years and not have to worry about running out of characters. And if they eventually run out of characters, worry about that then. Don't let the game stagnate and die now. Worry about that later. So make it the 3-4 years, and then worry about, we've run out of characters. But then you can start repeating a lot of repeat banners for people to try to get back and, max out some of the stuff they may have missed or whatever. Like that's where, once the game has already made it all that time, 3-4 years, you have a ton of variety and a lot of stuff that people will be interested in completionism stuff for. It's not going to feel as stagnant later as it does now if you're not regularly adding this content. And another thing is summons. We've been using the same 3 summons for over 100 days now. And the initial trailer even showed Leviathan. So Leviathan is already made. They're just holding them in the back pocket for some inexplicable reason, when there is a bunch of summons from Final Fantasy VII for them to try to implement and add over time. And again, sure, eventually they're going to run out, and they're going to run out of summons a lot faster than characters, but it's not going to feel as stagnant when we have a large variety. The fact that we have the same 3 summons for 100 days now, since launch, it's really boring. And the first summon they add is so hard that most players are not going to get it. So it's a massive nothing burger. It's a massive letdown to most players. You need to add more of these summons. Start pumping out summons. Once you have, 10, 15 summons in the game and you run out, sure, okay, then you dial back on summon releases, fine. But it's not going to feel as boring, because instead of using the same 3 summons for everything, we're going to have this massive variety, and you can cycle in those co-op summon events for us to farm the weapons and to level up the summons a little bit easier. And that's going to give you, if you have 10, 15 summons and you have one of these events once a month as well, that's still going to last you a year or two worth of consistent content for people to be engaging in. So it just makes no fucking sense that this game has this massive potential for them to have regular, interesting content to keep people engaged in, but they're just pumping out this repetitive, like, garbage event grinds with nothing new, with nothing inherently new. It's just vomiting out repeat costumes for the same characters, repeat weapons for the same characters. And as I said in a previous video, it's a blessing and a curse. The fact that you can build every character a bunch of different ways is great. That is really great and really intuitive, and I think it will lend to the longevity of the game way better than having like certain characters locked to certain roles. But also, it put them in this mindset where they just keep releasing stuff for the same characters, thinking that we might think that's interesting and fun, and maybe to some people it is, but to most people it's not going to be. We need new characters. We need new storyline. One character every month. That I don't think it should be any more, because any more would feel like too much to have to try to build. But any less, it's boring. It's boring, and it's bad for the overall longevity of the game, and also, in my opinion, the profitability, because again, people are going to want to build these new characters, and more specifically so than constantly dumping money and resources into the same characters. You're going to hold a lot more whale interest and casual player interest with a new character every month, and that in itself will lend to massive profits for the company. And I think that you have a lot of potential as well with the costumes. Having banners that don't have two costumes on it every time, like all it, like when you get the visual craftability down, whatever your artists get your artists are very talented, and the costumes look very good, and they're animated very well. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think you need to worry about them being able to implement new costumes or even reskins of some costumes slightly that don't look as awkward, like this fucking this Kuja. I'm looking at it in the background, Sephiroth Kuja with his bare midriff. I don't like it. Like, put a fucking jacket over that thing and it would be a pretty cool outfit. But yeah, there's just a lot of potential for these outfits, and the stats that they put on them can be duplicates. It doesn't matter, because yeah, sometimes like I don't like, I like that you can choose the skin and put on what other outfit. But yeah, sometimes I just don't care to do that, and like I ultimately don't really care about the stats on the outfits as much. So I don't care if we do encounter some things that are duplicate or less efficient in some way. I still think the variety of the looks is what people really care about more so than the stats. Sure, some of the outfits stats are people go gaga over, but I think aesthetically, visually, that's what people are paying for. They're not paying for the stats on the outfit. They're paying into the look. They want to get the new look. So yeah, they need to consider more costumes. No, none of these one outfit banners. Stop repeating the same characters. Again, new character every month, a new summon every month, new storyline every month. I think 1 month content cycle like that is really not that bad. But I would even go a step further with storyline, because I think there is way less of a shortage of Final Fantasy VII storylines for them to delve into. I would say even add new story, maybe even every 2 weeks. Because yeah, when they add new story, you finish it in like 2 days, and it feels bad, and it just leaves me thirsty for more. And not getting new storyline at least every month, it just feels really bad. Um, but I think storyline they should do 2 week cycle on updates for, and I think new characters and summons they should do a 1 month cycle on. And again, when they eventually run out of summons to add into the game, then they can worry about, like, then they can, honestly, I don't even think they'll have to worry about it feeling boring, because we will have such a variety to include into our battles and try out, that it will eventually just be fine. We'll have enough variety that it won't feel boring that we're using the same three, but we won't need a new summon every month anymore, and then they don't need to worry about it. But for the time being, it is really detrimental for them to not be adding a new character and a new summon every month. Um, but yeah, with new characters, there's just so many characters in the Final Fantasy VII universe. That they really they really don't need to worry about running out of characters. What they need to worry about is running out of players. So, Applebot, Square Enix, I hope you guys see this and you consider this feedback. Um, Please give it a shot. I would bet you my livelihood that this game will be a massive success if you implement the things that I have mentioned. But that is my challenge to you. Peace out, everybody. Like and subscribe. And as usual, make sure you send your feedback to the developers, and hopefully they will hear us out and give us a better content update schedule for the good of the game.